Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Welcome to Paranormal Karen. I'm already laughing. So today we're going to talk about, I'm not going to tell you yet. We have a paranormal theme that's coming, but we're starting with something else.
Okay.
You really are one of my favorite comics.
Well, thank you.
And this is Auggie Smith, ladies and gentlemen. And I love a lot of comics. You not only make me laugh, like I tell your jokes and then I say they're mine. No, I tell people your jokes. I go to Auggie, like when you quote somebody's joke. But that is, and you're in Van Nuys, right?
Well, we are over in Sun Valley is what it's called.
Sun Valley.
Sun Valley, your neighbor to the east is where I've come from. My favorite line about like telling people is like, oh, Karen, I love that bit you do. I was just telling it to an audience. And they also thought it was hilarious. I just want you to know that.
It's hysterical. And we end up working all the time at Barney's Beanery, which is just, and no beans. I've never seen
There's no beans. And I've never seen a guy named Barney. The whole thing is a lie.
The whole thing is a lie. And
they do it on a patio over an alleyway.
Yes.
Yeah. And man, that was probably my favorite show in LA for about 3 years.
That was fun. And Melissa would put it together. And she's living somewhere else. I think she's in Ohio. Everything got messed up. But it was also the muscle cars. We got the muscle cars here. You're in a cul-de-sac, aren't you?
I am 3 doors from an elementary school. Oh. Even better. 3 doors from an elementary school. Couldn't be any safer, you think?
So Sun Valley, and before we even get started, because you have a unique ability, and you have told me about this for years, it's one of my favorite stories, and it just keeps increasing. So I went to Tommy the Demonologist. This is all I'm telling folks. This is why you got to stick around.
Oh my gosh.
And then also I found some articles online that might reinforce what I'm thinking, or they might not because I didn't read them before we started.
I scanned the headline.
They could be helpful. They might be a waste of time.
Some of these headlines are so long. I wish there was a shortened version of the headline that I could read to know what the headline was. Like 2 words. Give me 2 words.
But you know what else on my phone? They always come up where they drop, they make it long enough so that you have to go, I am for the, what are you for? What are you for? And then I got to click on it.
Matthew Damon says what? What did he say?
I was yelling. I got that funny text I sent you. Anyways, okay. So your Sun Valley, which I honestly have to say, my friends used to live there. I wanted to move there, but crime. You had a little incident.
So you got to understand how domestic I am. I have a wife, and I have 3 children. At the time, I had 2 children. This is going back. I think 2-3 years now. So it's 6 o'clock at night. 6 o'clock. Perfect. At night. There's people like walking their dogs up and down the street. I'm 3 doors from an elementary school. It's a family neighborhood, right? Wife in the kitchen, kids in the backyard, and I'm in the bathroom. And I hear the wife yell, like the bad yell. So I run into the living room, and there's a dude trying to bust through my front door. He's going blam, 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 like his whole body is going up against the door. Oh. And he's yelling, please, they're going to kill me. That's what he's yelling. Now, Karen, I assume that it's The Purge, and I'm pretty excited, right? Because post-apocalyptic Earth is what I've been gunning for. That's going to be where I shine.
You're on the right podcast. We'll get you a Berkey.
Yeah, once all this is over, the civilization stuff, that's when I rise to be king.
Okay.
I really think it'll bring out the best in me. Anyway, so he's banging against the door, and he's yelling, please, they're going to kill me. Now, the way that my front door is situated, you can't really see out, so I don't know what's going on out there. There's no window right there. And he stops, and we realize the kids are in the backyard. So I run and I grab a can of bear spray,
Bears?
I keep bears. Well, we have bears in Sun Valley, so I have to keep one near the bed
Really?
in case they come around.
Oh.
No, I use it on the people.
What is bear spray? Is it pepper spray?
It literally is designed to keep bears away.
You're from Montana.
Right. So it's everywhere.
Are they following
They give it to us with school lunches there. Well, you got to, because it's right near the food.
Not to stop the story, but I once had that where Courage, we used to take him out in the backyard at my parents' house in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and one day he starts barking, and we look out. Right behind the shed, the whole time I'm taking him out, is a bear been sleeping there for months. And it got
sleeping?
Just sleeping. And we saw where the leaves, he was all sleeping in there. But that's when I wake up in the middle of the night just picturing that bear eating Courage because he was so close. But he went right by, and he was like, he just kept pushing over trash cans. He just went right across the street. Kids kept pushing over trash cans. But they're not terrible. But when you have a little dog, they wouldn't eat you. Would a bear eat you?
Yes, a bear would eat me.
Really?
There's stories of this.
Oh.
But it's really terrible because they like fresh meat. So he doesn't like to kill you right away. So there are stories like people being dragged back to caves and stuff. There's a famous story in Montana of a woman that was kept for like 3 days before they fucking said, yeah.
I know. How did they keep her there? Were they
the bear?
Navigating?
It's a bear.
It's a bear.
He tells you to stay. You stay.
Well, wait a minute.
There were 3 bears in a house. Okay, there was the big and the medium and the small one. And so
this isn't Patty Hearst, though. There wasn't a moment.
It wasn't the SLA house.
Oh my God! Did she make it? How do we know this happened?
There's a whole documentary about it.
Oh.
Well, not a documentary. One of those TV shows. There was a short-lived one that was like a documentary show about animal attacks. And it was just talking to people that were nearly killed by animals. I forget I think it was called that.
When animals attack.
Or I Survived the Bear, I think was the name of the show. I don't know, something like that. Anyway.
Well, wait, before we finish with your guy at your front door.
Okay.
Montana, there's a whole, there is a whole movie called Missing 411 The Hunted, and they go, and how hunters just disappear in the woods. Like woods they know inside and out, and they go through a whole story about Montana, about how they just, it would be like you're in that corner and I'm over here and I turn around and you're gone. And they search this whole area for this guy. This is how creepy it gets. They search this whole area. They don't know what happened. There's no nothing. Third time they search the area again. They find his clothes folded and his thermos, like coffee in it. Still never find him. Like it's a weird, people think it's a military thing where they're putting a...
It's so much creepier when the clothes are folded and stuff.
Isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
Like if they had been like burned or like thrown aside or whatever.
Bloody or like
but when it's just everything's normal,
fold,
that's the creepiest part of all. Yeah.
Dry cleaned. What are you doing, man? So we don't know what... So Montana, and I love... You know how much I love Montana. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you are at your front door, but you can't see out, and the banging stops.
So the banging stops, and you can kind of hear his presence move down the side of the house. The way that my house is designed, you go up the driveway to get into the backyard. Okay. The backyard is bigger than the house itself. The house is tiny. It's a tiny house that I live in, and but the backyard's pretty big, and so you have to go up the driveway to get there. And I get the bear spray, and I run around, and there's a gate that you push open, and he's coming up my driveway, and I got the bear spray, and I'm pointing at him, and I'm about to hit him with the bear spray, and he keeps yelling, "Please, they're going to kill me."
All right.
And it occurs to me, if this is my neighbor who's just been attacked, and then I bear spray him for trying to get away from the bad guy, I'm going to feel like a piece of crap. And here's the other thing. It might be my neighbor. That's what a shitty neighbor I am. I could not identify most of the people on my block. Anyway, so as he's saying this, a white car pulls up and stops in my sight line, and 2 guys get out, and the guy says, "Those are the guys that are going to kill me." So here's what I think has happened. I think that a drug deal went wrong. This guy ran to my house for sanctuary, right? So now I have to John Wick an entire drug cartel using only my bear spray, which is fine so long as most of the drug dealers are in fact bears. If it's like Pablo Escobar, or Vinny the Pooh. John got honey. At one point, I wrote like 10 of these. They're
Vinny the Pooh.
So the cops finally show up, which took forever. It was a long standoff of the guys staying in the street. The kids are locked inside, and I'm standing there holding the bear spray on the guy. And the cops finally show up, and I find out what happened was that...
Wouldn't it be great if a bear showed up right now? It would be like, holy cow.
And that was the cop, and I sprayed him by accident. And then what you don't understand, the Valley has a lot of animal officers. It's not just dogs anymore. It's not just canines. We have bears are on patrol.
So, and I have to go back one because, I would have let him in the front door, and that's bad. But I have empathy for people. Like, when people are in trouble, I get like, I gotta help. So this is,
right.
I would lose the home invasion.
It's about half the time that door would have been open because it was during the day. So, you're going in and out from the front door and stuff. And sometimes, so it's just lucky that I happened to deadbolt it. The screen, which was a big metal door, was open.
All right.
But yeah, so I felt, I hope so, whatever. But because if that hadn't happened, then I would have had to go toe to toe with the guy in my living room, which, I don't even think about it. Anyway, so the cops get there and I find out what happened was, the guy in my driveway is a robber. He was robbing the drug dealers in the car who are actually my neighbor. But they're not drug dealers. They're not drug dealers. They're just my neighbor. And they found this guy breaking into their house, and they were chasing him around the neighborhood. And I know this because 20 minutes after the cops leave, they bring me a beautiful plate of baklava to thank me. Yeah, big, huge plate of it.
Greeks, then?
Armenian, I think.
Armenian.
Yeah. And so... I said to the guys, in the campus, I said, well, the guy thought you were going to kill him. And they said, oh, yeah, we were going to kill him. But then, Karen, so the weird part about the story is, so it starts with me in the bathroom. And what had happened was I had tried to pull up my pants and everything, but I was in a big hurry. Yes. So my underwear were around, my thighs. They didn't make it all the way up. And I didn't zip my fly. So when I was facing down with the guy with the bear spray, at one point I looked down towards the end of it and I realized that I'm fully exposed to the guy. It's just out there. Which maybe that's the reason he stopped. It might have had nothing to do with the bear spray.
You're not exactly right. We're sure what he's afraid of.
Yeah, if you gotta fight a guy, just take it out. Just.
Were the Armenians very polite about that? Or were they?
The Armenians, they were all the way in the street, so I'm not sure they were aware of that part of it.
Okay.
It was only something shared by myself and the robber and the cops when they showed up.
And everyone was polite, though.
Everybody was very sweet. And then, here's the other part about L.A. The cops were all great looking. It was 2 of the most handsome men you've ever seen, and 4 of just drop-dead beautiful women. To the point of where my wife said, "What's with the smoke show?" So we got a picture of my son with Charlie's Angels. It was so L.A. It was the most L.A. group of cops. I thought we had hired strippers instead of cops.
Oh my God. I remember you telling this story on stage, and it just kills me. Oh, so because I remember I thought the guy was naked, but you were naked.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I reversed it on him. If he had... Normally, it's the other guy that's naked, but I beat him to that punch.
And everyone is all better now.
Everyone's better now. And can I tell you something else before we start the other paranormal thing? I absolutely hate that the name Karen has become a pejorative.
Oh, thank you.
I hate
how
it
much
so
that
much
me.
Because literally, I'm not kidding. Every Karen I know, I love.
Thank you.
It's like a group of people whose name I universally, I've never not liked a Karen that I've known in my life.
Thank you for that. And I know, and I got really picky about it, and I still get, because I think I told you, somebody on YouTube started using my 8x10 for his Karen videos. And I had there were all these, I wasn't in them, but there were all these women yelling. Somebody sent me it through Facebook, and and it said, "Have you seen this?" And I thought, that's always the the virus, somebody says, "Hey, have you seen this?" Or you look embarrassing in this, and you're like, "Oh, that's the hacker."
Exactly.
No, it was me. I was like, "What?" And I remember somebody was nice enough to go, you should get this removed. And then I couldn't get a hold of YouTube. I don't even know if I'm talking to a machine, but what worked out perfect was he must have Googled Karen's, or I don't know if, there's not a lot of famous Karens. So I came up and he took a picture off of my website, which the lucky thing is I own that picture. Because it's an 8x10, so it's not just a public picture. And YouTube kept saying, we can't find it on the video. And I was like, because it's the picture. It's the picture in the beginning. It's the one everyone sees. And they wouldn't take it down. So finally, brilliant Dana Eagle, found his email. This is millions of views. They're at about 7 million by this point. And and I put his email in. And I put YouTube in, and the subject line said, "Do I need a lawyer?" And he emailed me back right away, and he was apologetic. Whatever. He's probably a kid that doesn't realize I'm a person.
Yeah, that's a human being with feelings.
Yes,
and you don't want to become the spokesperson for awful people everywhere that you have nothing to do with, and probably don't even share their name, by the way. None of those people are probably even named Karen.
Exactly. And you know what else? He had a bunch of videos, and he had like people's real estate, a woman that looked like it was her real estate photo. I think he Googled Karen's and was using all these real Karens.
That had the name Karen on it.
Yes.
Anything that would have the name on it.
And then I was over it. And I will tell you this, MSNBC uses that phrase. I loved Borat until his last name was Karen. And I probably should have more of a sense of humor about it, but here's the worst part. You know who started that? Dane Cook. The worst person in the world. Someone I can't stand. He started that years ago.
I didn't know that.
Oh, my God. He had a joke about, every time you hate your perfect friend, her name is Karen. Years ago. And it was almost like karma, like, how mean he was to me before. It's like, how does that live? But
then he has a bit that then becomes, God damn it.
But anyway, but thank you for that. You're because I remember, I think I a couple times on Facebook, I was like, everyone stop it. But no one does. And now the news uses it. So I don't know. Maybe, my mom was going to name me Rhoda, and I still wish she had.
Rhoda?
Right? Rhoda Rontowski?
What a great name.
I know. I could kill her now. She should change it. I should change it, right? I'm kind of like Rhoda.
You absolutely like Rhoda. You're all the best parts of Rhoda.
I am, except for I can't keep the headband on. She always wore those beautiful 60s headbands.
I'll never forget that show. I remember a line of dialogue where one of the people was, one of their daughters was becoming a social worker, and her starting salary was $9,000 a year. I remember that, like in my head. And she was happy to get that. She's like, that's a good salary.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I remember Rhoda was always mouthy and single, and I think she always got the punchlines, and Mary had the setups. So I was very happy about that. So, all right. So we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about Auggie Smith's amazing superpower. All right, everybody, hold on. I'll be right back. Hey, everybody, just a quick update. I will not be at Tin Pan Alley in Cape Cod, at least not in the beginning of June. So keep your fingers crossed that I can change that announcement, or maybe even next year you'll see me there. But right now, that date has been postponed. I am restarting my psychic stand-up show at Flappers the 4th Thursday of every month, which is very exciting. And also, if you're in the LA area, you can see me headlining there July 24th. I'll keep you updated on that. Other than that, you can go to my website, karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com, and book a reading or check out my videos. And hey, don't be afraid to drop me an email. I love to hear from you guys. Maybe suggest a guest, maybe tell me your favorite guest, maybe tell me to shut up. Either way, karenrontowski.com. Let's get back to the podcast. We're back. All right. So Auggie, you're here because you told me this story a long time ago. Mm-hmm. The story keeps on going. So start at the beginning.
All right. Now, you need to understand something here. This is not a power I ever wish to have.
No.
Okay. And also the thing you need to understand is that sometimes as a comedian you say things
that are awful.
that are absolutely awful.
I've never stabbed
sometimes
anyone.
you purposely say the worst thing possible. And there's a variety of reasons for that. And when I was a younger comic, I did it way more than I do it now, but I still do it.
But also, you know what? That is comedy. Comedy always has a victim. So if I say I stabbed him, that's funnier than I pushed him lightly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we use our words differently.
Okay, so 1997, it might have been 96, doesn't matter. I'm working a bar in North Carolina, and it's Greek night. So it's like 200 fraternity guys trying to have sex with 200 sorority girls, and none of them wanted to listen to the bowling-shirted comedy of Auggie Smith. So I just grind through my half hour, and I end the set by saying, I hope that you all die in a fire. And I looked them all in the eye, and I walked slowly through the room just looking at them. Most of them weren't even paying attention when I said this. Now, 4 days later, a fraternity at Duke University, Sigma Chi House, burned to the ground, and 5 people died.
And now, did anyone remember? Did the police
We have
come
no
ask you?
idea if any of them were at the show.
Okay.
This is just something I had, because I was still in the South when it happened, so it was big news. And like I said to the other comics, like, wow, remember what I said when the show ended? So we cut to a few years later. Buddy Hackett is a judge on Last Comic Standing.
Oh.
As is Joe Rogan. I know, weird. And Ant does 2 jokes that are quite obviously not Ant's jokes, that are old jokes in comedy. And so Joe Rogan, to his credit, calls him out on it.
Good. And
Buddy Hackett, amazingly enough, defends it. And he said, and I quote, once you say a joke, it's your joke. And Buddy Hackett knows that's not true. He knows that's not true.
But you know what? I had a friend, and I forget the name of her father. Her father was a very famous comic, and he used to work with Milton Berle and stuff like that. I can't remember his name. And I remember getting upset because somebody stole my joke. And she said to me, oh, no, that's how they do it. And I was like, no. And I think in their time, that was how they did it.
I guess so.
Which
I guess
is
so.
bad, which is terrible.
So Buddy Hackett does that, and so I get on stage, I think the night that I saw it, and I called for the death of Buddy Hackett. Oh. And I think it was within 10 days, Buddy Hackett died. Okay?
Okay.
So now I think I might be on to something here. And I realize I shouldn't do this. This isn't something I should do.
Okay.
Then, 2 years later, I'm working in the Stardome, at the Stardome in the South, and there was a Southern comic opening for me, whose first name was Michael, and he went by the Ragin' Cajun. Not John Paul, who I love.
Okay, and I think...
But a different Ragin' Cajun.
Okay, and is John Paul the one that won the lottery?
His wife won.
His wife won the lottery. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He's fine.
And he's a lovely man, and I have nothing against him.
Yes.
The other Asian Cajun was selling his CD after the show, and what he would do is you'd buy it from him for $20, and then he would ship it to troops in Iraq. Okay? Very nice.
I did a
cool.
similar program like that where we mailed them over. I found, yes. Yeah. So go ahead.
So I compliment him on it afterwards, and I say, that's amazing. He says, oh, well, it's great for me, because my price of goods and the shipping is less than $5. So I'm pocketing $15, and I was like, wait a minute, you're a war profiteer. You are a war profiteer. It's okay to take a little bit. You don't take 75% of something that's supposed to be for the troops. So I did what I do,
and now
I got on stage, and I called for his death. Yeah. I run into a comic from the South a couple months later, and I bring the guy up, bitching about him, what a war profiteer he was. And the guy said, oh, yeah, that guy died. He had a heart attack, and he died. And then it was at that point, Karen, that I realized, okay, there's something going on here.
This is number 3.
Now,
and I shouldn't be laughing, but it makes me laugh.
Then the other thing is you ask yourself, well, have I called for other people's deaths that didn't come true? I probably have. but it isn't something that I was like. It wasn't like a scripted bit.
It's not a book in your desk.
It would be exactly.
Calling for people's
It's something that if it's in my head, I'll call for somebody's death. If it presents itself, if there's a lady wearing a funny hat. Anyway, so now we cut to 2 weeks ago. And my first hour post-pandemic is in Billings, Montana. Happens to be my hometown.
And you didn't disappear.
And I didn't disappear. I made it through. So it's Friday, Saturday show. And the Friday show goes very well. And Saturday, there's a woman that's working the door. And I've worked there for so long. I do a comedy festival up there. I've gotten to know the people that volunteer and help out the door. And her name is Victoria. And she told me she started doing stand-up comedy. And she says, there's going to be a guy here tonight. And I'm sitting right in the front row. I do a joke about him. And the joke is that we had sex. And then he shit the bed after sex.
Okay.
So I said, wait a minute. You have a joke about a guy that's going to be here shitting the bed that's sitting in the front row?
Sounds like a bad
idea. You got to get on the show. And she wasn't part of the show. So we carve out 6 minutes so she can go up and do that. Before the show, I'm sitting in the green room, which is the manager's office of the bar. And there's a big bearded dude standing in the doorway, and he's talking to us. And Lucas is the other comic, Lucas Seeley, who's also from Billings. And Lucas seems to know him. And he introduces himself, and his name is Beard. So it's very easy to remember. His name is Beard. And he's telling me about his indoor grow operation that he's very excited about. And he wants to get me high. And I'm like, Beard, I can't before a show because I don't know the potency. And this is what I'll tell the kids. Kids, are you listening? Don't do weed that you don't know the potency before a show. After the show, fine, but not before the show.
And probably from a guy named Beard.
And also from a guy named Beard. So then sketchy. Beard goes and sits down before the show, and you can put it together in your head. Beard is the guy that is the focus of the story. Okay. There are 4 comics before me. Beard is heckling all of them. And nothing good. Just like, weed, stupid stuff. And he's front row stage left. So there's no getting around him. And he's a big bear of a man. So...
which now makes me happy that you put the lady on.
Right. So then Victoria goes on and she tells the story. And I can't see him because I can't get to a spot in the room where I can see him. But she describes his mood as grumpy. Grumpy during the bit. So then 2 more comics go up and he's heckling both of them. And I'm kind of talking to Louis like, he's not going to make it. He's never going to make it. We'll give him a chance. He's heckling my intro. I get on stage within 3 minutes. The guy comes over, taps him on the shoulder, like time to go. He makes a bit of a deal, and now I'm just pissed. It's like, this is my first weekend in over a year. I'm in my hometown,
it's hard.
And I have to deal
with
this.
Yes.
I have to deal with this. So I say something I'm not happy about saying. I say, 600,000 people died of COVID, and none of them could be you. Look at how fat you are. You must have diabetes. It looks like you swallowed all of the high-risk groups. And then, as he's in the back of the room...
Might I apologize to some of my...
like I say, not proud of it.
It was just a moment.
Not proud of it. But in the moment, sometimes when you're a pure artist, your pure emotions come through.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes you absolutely hate that person. And you want to say the worst thing possible to that person.
And he was hateable.
Yes.
Everything.
On every level. So then, they get him to the back of the room, and he's just barely out of the room. And that's when I tell the crowd, it's like, oh, by the way, earlier, the story about the guy shitting in the bed, that was him. That was that guy right there. I'm not kidding you. That was the guy. So,
and the crowd is on your side.
And the crowd hates him. So they're like, all right, bad shitter. And it's a small town. And like half of them know who he is.
Dude, by the way, I didn't know this part of the story.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know, but it's
yeah. And so we cut to Monday morning. And I'm texting the people that put together the show. And it's like, yeah, it was a great weekend. I'm glad you threw the guy out. That was never going to work out. And they're like, funny story. Beard went home that night and died in his sleep.
But no suicide.
No, he didn't kill himself. He died. He just died in his sleep that night. Now, here's the thing, Karen. I didn't wish death upon him. I said he should have died earlier. So it's not quite the same.
Right.
It's not quite the same.
You're totally off the hook.
Exactly. I did. And it's just bananas, and it's wild. And it's not, I mean, we can have, like you say, you're a real person. Like when a guy uses your picture, that's really you. Beard was a real guy. He was a real guy. And his last night on earth was me yelling, "You should have died, you fat piece of shit," and then telling the world that he shit the bed. Which was not the last interaction I would have liked to have with the man.
Sure.
By the time the show was over, I was fine. I would have been happy to smoke up with Beard and talk about his indoor grow operation and all that. I would have happy to been, but maybe that would have been awful because maybe the weed was poisoned. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe that's why he died.
Yeah, from doing that. Who knows? Who knows?
You know what? This is just, the moral of the story. Like, don't heckle. Don't heckle, and don't heckle Auggie Smith. So that was 4 times. 5?
4 times.
4 times.
4 times.
You're so good at this. So I think I remember this when it was 3 times. I think that's when you first told me.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating.
Because it's been years. It's been 17 years since, I think it was 2004.
People on the freeway you may have yelled at, we don't know. We don't know. You could be a CIA prop, like.
Yeah. How many natural disasters have been because I had a bad experience at a restaurant in a certain town?
So I immediately sent this off to my demonologist, and I said, "Have you ever heard of this?" And he said, "Does he take requests?" That was his first reaction. And then he said, "I've never heard of it, but it sounds like when he's enraged, he sees future timelines." So your psychic ability, make sense?
Oh, wow.
All right, go ahead.
That is really interesting.
And I have a theory, but go ahead.
I've never thought of it that way. That is a really, so like there's something about having a negative energy towards somebody that I can see a darkness coming for them.
Yep. There's a lot of people that that do see. There was somebody told me about our uncle in Italy would see a mask, and he called it the mask of death. He would see a mask over somebody, and they die within the next week.
Yeah.
But I know, right? not a regular COVID
Halloween
mask.
was awful for him. Oh, this poor children. Why?
The whole country is going to be wiped out on Halloween. No mask.
You can have all the candy.
So that could be it. Also, there's another thing that happens, which psychic ability, third eye between the eyebrows, right?
Right.
That's the eye that's on the dollar. I wonder if you clear that eye. You get so enraged that energy that you clear your third eye. So I looked this up, and I found, like I said, I found 2 articles that I didn't read, but this was very hard to find. So the first one is called, and I don't know if this is a racial term.
That's always a bad start of a sentence.
There's another bad start to a sentence. I'm not saying Hitler was right. There's always bad stuff. Please no emails. We're just joking. And I'll tell you why. Because this article was called "Addressing Psychic Rage." All right, I looked up anger and rage, and this one came out. And so I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs. Rage, psychic rage that alienates you from compassion. So this is, again, opening up your third eye. So you have compassion for human beings. Rage comes up, boom, no compassion. That could be your block. Compassion for others and for yourself. It is a doorway to accountability, expansion, and personal power. It matters that many of us who have been marginalized walk around hating our building blocks. I specifically want to talk to you about black psychic rage. Okay, so the rest I think is about, maybe that might be a term, I don't know, black psychic rage. But in that first paragraph, this person, Keely Miracle is the last name, I think she tells a lot in that first paragraph.
But it almost makes it sound like I'm at my best when I'm enraged. Like, that's when I see things clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, you're pure.
Yeah, but I don't like feeling that way.
No, I don't either. I have a temper.
I would rather be deluded than happy.
I know. Well, that's what we're all shooting for. That's why marijuana's legal.
Yes.
So this person does go in. So I don't know that they're talking about psychic, but they may be. But I still found that paragraph very helpful. And it opened up for the next thing that I found for you. People might be listening going,
so you're saying the demonologist said there's no word for it?
There's no name for it, except that you're seeing future timelines.
They might be able to name it after me?
We'll call it the Augie Smith.
It's like discovering an element, right?
The road.
or a meteor.
That's right. So I dug even deeper. Well, you know what, too? And I've talked about this with psychic ability, which is, pardon me, folks, if I've told this story on here before. When I work with the animal communicator, we find dogs. She can see what the dog sees. I can answer questions with tarot. And one day we're doing this, and she throws me a curveball really fast. What do you see? Is he going this way? He's blah, blah, blah. And she just catches me very quick, and she goes, I keep seeing a mechanic, like he's at a gas station. And then she goes, what is the name of the man that has him? And before she's even done with the sentence, I go, Dave. His name is David. And then I pull back, and then I go, no, Dave's a very common name. I probably got that wrong. Turns out, David that owned a gas station and auto shop had the dog. So what she did was she caught me so off guard with that question that I answered with the very first piece of information that came into my head. David.
Right.
So, but then I edited it, right? And we don't want to edit, and we don't want to go, well, that's not a nice thing, and I don't want to think that someone's going to die, and and all your compassion comes in. So you remove all that, and boom, there you are.
But I'm not doing it. I'm just seeing it.
No, you're seeing it. You're not causing it.
I can't do it. I don't have that power.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I kind of feel like we're all in charge. That's like hexing and cursing. You kind of have to buy into, unless somebody's a real master magician, which I don't think you practice this at home. You warm up on small animals. So unless somebody really knows how to do a curse or a hex, I think usually you have to know about it.
Right.
Like there are really strong curses, but 9 out of 10 times it's telling someone I cursed you, that then you plant that in their head and they're like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, you know.
It would absolutely affect me.
Yeah, right.
If somebody cursed me.
Yeah, you can't plant that. That's why I say in my tarot class, whenever you're reading for pregnant ladies, you got to choose all your words very carefully. You don't want to plant any negative things at all. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back to this next article, which is entitled, are you ready? It's from Research Digest, the British Psychological Society, the surprising link between anger and time perception. Oh, we'll be right back.
Psychic teas, spelled with a Z, are scrumptious herbal combinations with antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties. Without sugar or caffeine, psychic teas won't mess with any medications and are designed by a naturopathic doctor. Many testify to positive results. Detox chakras and psychic tea blends enable bodily functions with superior efficacy, while more love and champagne blends support awareness of subtle joy and bliss. The CBD's teas are magical with myriad healing effects. There are 20 servings per package. A little dab'll do ya, and you can drink it hot or cold. Psychic teas taste so good. Replace coffee, use as a bedtime ritual, or even flavor a meal or dessert. The people behind the product are righteous and kind. Psychic teas will blow your mind. Totally worth the investment. Psychic Teas with a Z.com.
Okay, so here we are at part 3. This is the British Psychological Society promoting excellence in psychology. British, right there, you know they're smart.
They gotta be good.
That's gonna be it.
They probably talk like this. What's all this then?
You know, I love Russell Brand's YouTube channel, but sometimes he starts talking fast, and I'm like, is this still English? Do I have to slow this down? He really has an accent. Okay. Now, let's hope this article more applies to what we're talking about than the last one.
Okay.
I didn't know. Okay. The way we think of abstract concepts like time is grounded in physical metaphors. For example, we talk about rearranged events being moved from one day to another as if through space. Similarly, there is a metaphorical embodied aspect to our emotions / fear is associated with physical withdrawal. For example, whilst angry is associated with the approach and confrontation. Is this making sense?
Not yet.
Okay.
But, it's English. I think you're not reading it with the accent.
There's one sentence in here that we'll get to that will make sense. I do have to say this. They're talking about anger and time. My friend Paul Jasek says, this is how you extend time. He goes, how like when you're driving somewhere and you're late, so you're all like, ah. He says a witch taught him to extend time. You just sit back and relax and you actually slow time down and then you get there on time. So far it has worked, I think. Okay. Next sentence.
Well, I think just relaxing is usually a good idea anyway.
Yes.
Even if you can't extend the time. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a roundabout way to get you to calm down.
No one ever says panic. Go ahead and panic.
Nobody wants to tell a woman to calm down, so they tell you that you can extend time if you relax. They'll listen to that. The other thing will cause a fight.
Don't say calm down. Say I'm going to teach you some witchcraft. Okay. All right. My podcast can get very healers and very dark. The last couple have just been like my sister blowing soda out of her nose and stuff like that. I promise you folks we'll be back with more scary paranormal. Okay. An intriguing new study, here this sentence will make sense. An intriguing new study shows that this shared way of thinking about time and emotion can lead to surprising effects. David Hauser and colleagues first showed that people with an angrier temperament are more likely to think of themselves as moving through time than think of time moving towards them. You can test this on yourself by considering which day of the week a meeting has changed to. If it was originally planned for Wednesday, but has moved forward 2 days, if you think it's now changed to Friday, then you're someone who thinks of themselves as moving through time, whilst if you think of the meeting is now on Monday, then you're more passive. Does that make any sense?
I understand the idea.
Okay.
So if I tell you if we were going to do a show on Wednesday and I say the show got moved 2 days from Wednesday, and then if you thought it was Monday,
oh, I see. Then I'm passive.
Right, and if you thought it was Friday, but why would we do a show on Monday? What kind of crap gig is this? Is it a nooner, too?
It's at the You Roman Flappers.
It's Zoom. It's a Zoom show?
Yes, this is a Monday Zoom show. It's at midnight in Switzerland.
It's a corporate.
Please. Okay. All right. Let's wait. Oh, there's not too much more here.
They want edgy but clean. So do that.
Did you ever do that? Did you ever hear? You ever working with a bunch of comics at a corporate, and the guy goes, "Oh no, say anything you want," and I'm always like, "Oh, you don't know."
No, you do not mean that. You do not mean that.
Okay, so maybe this doesn't. Do you think this has anything to do with what we're talking about?
Well, it sounded like it would. It's the way that you approach time and whether or not you can control time. If you see yourself moving the time, or if you see the time moving you, right? Is that
right? I think I had it right in the second half of this show when we just decided that you actually literally blew your third eye out when you're mad.
Yeah. And so if I ever want to just see truth, I have to be enraged.
Can you imagine?
I'm like the Hulk.
I was thinking you could open a business where people really had to make you angry, and then you're yelling at them.
What a terrible life. You know it. Every time you go to work, it's just okay, I got to get really mad 6 times today. And people are just going to invent scenarios to make me mad. They're going to dunk coffee on me. They're going to tow my car.
And you're going to find the love of your life, and you're going to like it.
I'm going to smash my toe.
Okay. Well, that's... Have little coffee tables all over so you trip all the time. Okay, so, wow, maybe we can't be done early.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I understand. I don't know that this all could be coincidence, of course, as all things can be coincidence.
Well, I don't believe in coincidences, though. But I think it's not you doing it to them. I think it's you seeing it.
Seeing it, yeah.
And probably if you paid more attention, I bet you would find you're more psychic than you know.
Do you think I should tell people? Like, let's say that I do see somebody's death. Do you think you should tell them? Because if so, there's something we need to talk about. Depending on your answer, we'll have a lot more podcasts.
Do you see a mask over me? Oh my God. So ethically, when I read tarot, I say I don't read death. Okay? Sometimes I'll see it if someone's really sick, but here's what I think. Although one time Felicia Michaels asked me to read for someone, and I said, I think her father is going to die. And I rarely say that, and then Felicia's father died, like the next week. So,
oh my.
But I choose to stay away from that because I also believe that we have several exit doors. We have several exits that we can take. And sometimes we skip it, and sometimes we go to the next one, and sometimes we take it. So I think death is actually between the person and God. And here's my proof, my thinly veiled psychic proof. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Cindy Burns?
Yes, I do.
Cindy Burns was my best friend. She died on my birthday.
Oh, my.
Yes, and she had cancer for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And she did all these holistic things, and she really she found out when it was stage 4, and she bypassed almost everything. So one day I'm talking to her on the phone, and she says, I had a dream last night, and my father came to get me. He said, come. And she said, nope. And she said, we fought and fought and fought. And I said, I need to be there for my grandkids. And she came back, and she was telling me, and she said, that was the most, like she was saying, like, I'm here for my grandkids. I made it back. I think that was one of those doors. Well, after that, it was when her brain literally became mush. Like she was, the next couple of months were like, it wasn't Cindy anymore. And it was so painful to watch. And it was so, but she had done it. She had missed probably what was supposed to be her last door because her will was so strong. And then, she was in hospice at home. It was terrible. And then the August 16th, because my birthday was the 17th when she passed, she got up in the middle of the night and she said to her husband, I understand now. I get it now. And the next day she passed. So I think that's why I think mean people live a long time. Have you noticed that? Mean people rarely die young. Dane Cook is going to live forever.
It does seem to be a little odd about who lives and who dies, but why do mean people live then?
Because I think they have that will. I'm going to hold
they're
on.
Just like, nobody comes to get them. Like their father shows up like, you're fine where you are.
We don't want you over here.
We'll be back in a while to pick you up. Just have fun. Have fun with your friends.
I'll never forget, my dad's mother was so mean. She was mean. This is my dad's mother. She's alive in the 20s. And here's a creepy story from my family. She's 2 of 13 children. All die in the Depression. All of 13, but 2 live.
Oh my God!
Mm-hmm. And
oh my God!
Her parents are always telling her the one that died before her was so much better looking. And I'm not a baby person, but that's really hard to tell, right? Yeah, yeah. Here's the other thing. So in those days, when someone passed away, they'd have the wake at home, and they would strap the body down to ice. And her uncle died sitting up, so they had to break him down. So she's sitting home in August, terrified. Everyone has gone out drinking, and she's sitting home with this body strapped to ice, and the ice melts, and the uncle sits up on her. Okay. This is not funny, but it's funny, right? So she's got an edge on her, and she was very beautiful. She was so when dates would come to pick her up, she would have to ask them if, instead of taking her out, if they could buy food for her family, not family for her food. Like, that's how bad it was. So, but she's so gorgeous. One day she goes to New York City, goes auditions for the Ziegfeld Follies, hired on site, and goes to rehearsal, and they have her sit on the moon, and they hoist the moon all the way up, and she doesn't like it, and she comes down and tells them all to go to hell.
You can shove your moon right up your head.
Shove your moon up your moon. So she was, right? That's how mean she was.
I didn't come to New York to do any moon riding.
Can you imagine, what that meant to be in the Ziegfeld Follies at that time?
Yeah.
It was like, if she didn't have a job, she's like, I've had enough of this. So we used to laugh because she wouldn't wave to my dad when we'd visit her. She'd give him the fist. She'd wave a fist, like an iron fist at him, because she was always mad at him. And she broke his nose with an umbrella. It was terrible. But anyway.
How long were they married?
No, that's my grandma. So she's my dad's mom.
Oh, okay.
Even as he's 35, 40, she's waving the fist at him. And here's what was weird. Talk about me hating the Karen thing. She looked like Jean Stapleton. And when All in the Family was out, she hated that people were like, you look like Edith Bunker, right? It made her crazy. So she was so mean, and she lived forever.
Right.
Like, she was in her 90s, and there was nothing going on. She was just laying in bed like, I'm gonna beat this thing. And then, so I always think mean people tend to live longer, or maybe we notice.
Yeah. That must be what it is. We just notice that they're around more. Yeah, and you can, I think when old people, some of them are very nice, and some of them are very mean. And I wonder if that's because that's the way their life went. Everything seems to be hyper with with old people when they just lose their filter. And they just unfiltered can say nice things too. Because without a filter, sometimes good things come out.
Yes. Yes.
The filter just doesn't keep back. Anyway.
Yes.
But, and when they lose the filter and they're able to say the mean things, it's so much worse.
Yeah, or just the blunt things.
Yeah.
I worked as a nurse's aide for, I think, 3 days. I was a kid, and I just had a break between college. I'll do this. Oh my God, we should worship these people. These people should retire with millions of dollars, cleaning up poop and everything like that.
Yeah.
So there was this guy, he must have had Alzheimer's, and I think he worked for years with GE or something, and I remember holding him, and he was trying to go to the bathroom because he was supposed to poop before he went to bed. And I was just this dumb kid, and I was like, you gotta poop. And he just kept yelling, I don't have the data to do that.
The data.
He didn't he was back at work. I don't have the data to do that. Oh, it was terrible. But you know what else? That when the filter comes off, my mom's mom was in an old age home when she was 80. Not Alzheimer's, but real dementia, where she doesn't know who anyone is. Mm-hmm. Every day they'd find her in the men's side, grabbing at men.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, filter came off.
The horny filter.
Which ironically is how I get my date. I go to find me in there. Hey, look, he's got
She's here again. Go blue.
So that's, but I don't know, death is to me, I get bad about it because, this is my thing. Death is my thing.
I think that I've become so much more aware of death. It's I'm to the age now, I'm 50 now, and there are guys I know that are just dying of dying.
Yeah.
Not because they killed themselves or not because they were in a car wreck, but they just die.
Yeah.
And they're my age or younger now. And it's just, I think of, like, I know a bunch of people that have killed themselves. I understand that. That I get.
We're not supporting
but
that.
When you just go to bed and don't wake up because you're old and there was something wrong with your ticker that you didn't know about,
Yep. And it could be anything.
Horrifying.
Yeah, and if we were 20, we'd be like, well, 50 is old.
Remember? Well, more than that, I mean, I started doing comedy full-time in 92. And if when I had started, I worked with somebody that had started in 1963, I would have thought that is the oldest human being on the planet. You cannot be any older than that. I mean, the young comics must view me as just this fossil, like Gandalf. I'll bet I look like Gandalf through their filter.
Isn't it great not caring? Isn't it great not caring anymore?
But do you feel the responsibility to be the wise old sage to young comics?
I don't, but here's the thing.
I have a theory about that. Screw them. Nobody help me. I ain't helping you.
Well, it's not that I would help. Anybody that asks, I will help. I absolutely love to, give out a hand to anybody that wants help. But sometimes when people get mad at, they're not, they all think they're alternative or blah, 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 whatever the criticism is, or they're all too PC or they're all too dirty. I don't know. But I'm always like, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They're making their folks happy. Mm-hmm. They're making they'll have a new, it enraged, that's my favorite word now. When who did Blazing Saddles? Mel Brooks. Came out screaming political correctness has ruined comedy.
Right.
Because you know what? At a certain point, it probably, you know what I mean? There's certain things where everybody's apologizing. Yes, everyone took it too far.
Sure.
But first of all, when were you in a comedy club? Because I'm not seeing the political correctness in a comedy. I don't see anyone getting shamed in a comedy club for what they're saying, number one. But number two, it's, he has rape jokes in Blazing Saddles. He thinks that's funny. And I'm like, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that because I think you make every woman in the theater remember when it happened. So that's not for me, but I wouldn't tell him not to do it. So I'm like, listen, let them figure it out, because there's a sociology to comedy too. Like the feminist movement came up, which a lot of people don't remember. The feminist movement was about saying, ladies, you should get paid this much to stay home. It wasn't about go get a job. It was like you're an equal because you're staying home, right? Young feminists think that they wanted to turn into men. No, they were saying, you're not just a mom. You're a mom, you're a maid, you're a house, you're a business person. You should get paid. Remember they always come out with that number?
Yeah.
What a housewife would get paid?
No, I remember that all the time. Yeah.
And so that happens. Feminist movement, we get Roseanne. Backlash, we get Dice. Political correctness, we get Seinfeld. Right? And you can actually do it. Sam Kinison falls in there the same place. Like, I do think that there's always a reflection. Like, who's big now? I guess it's all spread out, isn't it?
Oh, there's so many. I don't even know who the biggest comic is anymore.
I love that I don't know who the biggest comic is anymore.
Yeah, there's so many different markets for comedy, and there's so many, so YouTube comics, and there's comics that play mostly to people from the country they're from, and man, it's just, there's so many great stuff. But I think it's better. I think it's better than it's ever been.
Me too.
That's the thing about it, is that, you can't work. Yeah, you can't work inside these rules because you're not good enough.
Yes.
Okay? There's plenty of very funny people doing very funny stuff. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's driving me crazy is when they come out and they say something that's like over the top, racist, misogynistic, whatever it is, and then their next sentence is, "No, I'm not allowed to say that." And I'm like, wait a minute, you just said it. I just watched you say it. Don't tell me you can't say it. And then they pick out people, this guy over here is upset that I said whatever awful thing that I said. And the guy's like, well, no, it's just it wasn't said that well,
I know. He didn't say it right. Well, that's, even when, the way things are now, Jim Jeffers says this great. You can draw a line, but you can't go backwards in time and then put that line there and say, well, you shouldn't have said that.
Exactly.
Exactly. And he's right on that. We need to figure out some sort of forgiveness thing.
yeah, exactly. There should be just a day of atonement where they're like, all right, yeah, I said the N-word in pursuit of a joke on stage 17 years ago. Can we move past it now?
Yeah.
I'm not happy that I said that. You think you're upset? What do you think the audience felt like?
I know.
You think you got a problem with it? I thought I was going to be the white guy that could say it in a joke. And it's just like work. Every white guy thought they could. And every white guy wrote the joke.
And now we're here.
Yeah, and here we are.
And
here we are.
They, it's funny because like certain words, though, were okay back then.
Yep.
And other words weren't.
Yeah.
But I always say, my new bit is about, we don't respect forgiveness in this country. We don't respect it. Otherwise, we'd have a football team named after it. No one would cheer for them. Why is there no one cheering on Team Forgiveness? Maybe we better go ask Coach O.J. Simpson why no one's rooting for them, right? We don't have a game show named after forgiveness. We don't, Like nobody really, we love to point the finger, but we don't want to say...
Right, and if anybody changes their view, then they become hypocritical. Instead of seeing it as personal growth, we see it as, well, that isn't what you thought 10 years ago. Like, yeah, no, it isn't.
Right.
I think a lot of different things now than I did 10 years ago.
Exactly.
And you should have heard me 10 years before that.
I was even dumber.
I was way dumb then.
That is true. And in fact, I remember when I was a kid, everything was Polish jokes.
Oh, yeah.
And no one ever got mad at that.
In Montana, it was North Dakota jokes.
See?
Yeah, it was all the same jokes, but two guys from North Dakota. Yeah.
I did a UN gig once, and
You did a gig at the UN?
I did. No, not UN. Where do you go where all the troops are? You do,
USO.
It wasn't USO. It was in Bosnia, and there were German troops, and there.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that'd be UN peacekeepers, yeah. Sounds like.
Well, there was Polish people, and there's Russian. There were all these, and I learned. Here's what they say over there. They say, Polish people meaner than a German. That's what they say about us.
Like they look both ways.
Yes. And I remember saying something on stage where I was like, "Hey, is it Polish or Russian?" And I said, "Nah, there's no difference." And the Polish soldiers went, "There is a difference."
Yeah.
What is that called, though? Not USO.
And then 75 of them went and changed a light bulb. Did you hear, Karen? They turned the whole house. The whole house. It's insanity.
Oh my god. But we never thought to get mad at them. But you know what? But I do totally understand. I totally understand Black Lives Matter and all this in Asian. And here's why I have to tell you. I'm a white lady, white privilege. We're white people.
Sure.
We have that. But like the other night, I was listening to Coast to Coast AM, and I don't know who he's talking to.
Love it. Love that.
Do you? Nori enrages me.
I used to listen when I was driving all the time to Art Bell.
Was the best.
Did you buy the schematics for the time machine? I bought the schematics for the time machine. It was $19.99.
Do you still have them?
No, my buddy Bruno had it and we built it.
Did it work?
Well, I'm just going to say this. Karen. I went in, I stayed there for a little while, and when I got out, I'm not kidding, it was a half an hour later.
Wait.
So you can call that what you want.
But you now can see when someone's dying in the future.
Exactly. So maybe that's where I absorbed it.
All right. So I try. I try to see everybody's side, and I try to be.
Sure.
We know we're not 20 years ago. We know, and so Nori has on this psychologist, right? And this is how slight it has to be for me to turn that off. I can turn that show off when he says hello, when he plays the wrong song, because I dislike him so much. And
I listen every night, but I hate him.
Well, you know what? I need to fall asleep with some noise, and I can go to the other station, but it's usually in a foreign language. It's not even Spanish, which I'm trying to learn, and that just scares me. Then that strangers are in my room. So he's the only show. I
mean, more strangers than normal.
More strangers than normal. So Nori says to him, "What about bipolar?" And the guy goes, and I can tell this guy doesn't have a master's degree. He's got some sort of, and he goes, well, you know, a lot of my friends have girlfriends that are bipolar. And of course they love them because when they're up high, it's great. But when they're down, they don't know what to do with them. And I almost leaped through the radio. I almost was like, wait a minute. What? Like he went right to everybody's crazy girlfriend. And I almost sent him an email, and then I was like, you know what? The dude was probably nervous and didn't know what to say, and I didn't. But it's like that fast I can go, okay, so we hate women.
Right.
I'll never forget, George had a woman on once, and she was talking about doing the Ouija board, and he goes, is your husband okay with that?
It's just...
And
just always have to, Jessa, our friend Jessa,
yep.
did one of the great comedy sets of all time on her This Is Not Happening.
Oh, yeah.
And I read the comments, and again, understand, I honestly think it's one of the best stand-up sets of all time.
Oh, absolutely. I do too.
And half of the comments were how funny it was, and the other half was how fuckable she was. That was half of the comments were about her ass, were about her thickness, were about her desirability as a woman. And I thought, I've never seen any of that on anything I've ever posted. That's never come up. I've never had to deal with whether or not people want to have sex with me.
Right.
And it's just, I guess I knew it. I guess all this stuff that I knew, but it's only been the last 6 or 7 years that, you know, women that I've known for 30 years are talking about all of their experiences, that it's absolutely stunning to me about the society that we've just let go on and be this way forever. And then the other thing is, look back at how homophobic it all was.
That's
homophobic,
the biggest
so
one.
Transphobic, just not even hiding it, and just so much bashing on. So what? I have a problem that I can't do that anymore. It's good that we can't do that anymore.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
good.
It's, you know, I remember when I went on the road with Lamont the first time. We were going to do these triple gigs up through Montana and stuff. Yeah. And my dad was like, "You think that's going to be okay?" And I was like, "Not." He didn't mean like don't travel. He was like, "Are you guys going to be okay?" And I was like, "Why would you ask that?" And then I was like, "Oh, because he's black."
Right.
Like it didn't even, you know, he was my best friend. I didn't think we're going, you know, is that safe? But you know, I still think if a comic does the gay voice on stage, it makes me like my stomach gets upset. Like, don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
And how many old movies? I mean, you go back and you watch it, and I watch old movies that I used to like, and so I'm affected by it now. And other people would say, "Oh, you're virtue signaling or you simp or whatever it is." No, I've grown as a human being, right. And I understand how shitty that is now when I didn't understand it before.
Exactly.
And it's not because I'm wrong now.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not getting dumber.
That's right. It's that you have more compassion and empathy for everybody's fight.
Yeah.
And, well, anyways, how did we get off?
Well, we got way off of it. None of this had anything to do with anything.
Well, we hope we're better people, and we hope we didn't offend anyone here, and we probably don't worry about it. You're so funny. Tell everyone where they can find you.
So I don't have a lot of live shows lined up because I have the 3 kids now.
Well, hopefully you'll be in my psychic stand-up show. I'm not sure if I'm just doing it my way with me and Lamont.
But I'm not telling the story again because it sets people off. I remember when we did the live show and I told them, and then they were scared of me.
Well, you know.
And I tried to do like punchlines, and then they were scared of me. And it was like,
no, this crowd is into.
I will not harm you. I've come in peace. So Twitter's the best one for me. And
these people are here for death, so they're fine. Half of them talk to the people you killed.
Twitter is Auggie Smith, Auggie, Smith the regular way.
I cannot tell you how funny Auggie is, so go, even your tweets just destroy me. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week. Oh, July 24th, I will be making my first attempt at shooting the fairy story. It's my special. I'm going to try and tape it at Flappers. If you are in the Burbank, LA area, please remember, Flappers, you can see, I'll have ads all over my Instagram. It is going to be called Captain of the Orion Interplanetary Army. Thanks to Mike at Una Rising Media. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next week.